here on the details today. I'm going to show you the exact setup, the bait, the line, the rod and reels that I use at Lake Seminole for my first FLW tour win. So if you watched the Lake Seminole FLW Tour tournament, you saw that I caught some fish the first day using a crankbait. I was just cranking in the current seams, but what I really ended up doing most of the damage that week was flipping a creature bait in isolated little patches of milfoil and coontail grass that were mixed with hydrilla. And I really had a really simple setup that week that I was using. It's a bait that I've used in a bunch of different situations, but it's my favorite flipping bait of all time. It's the Z-Man palmetto bugs. And this is the exact setup that I had tied on during the tournament. I haven't even taken it off yet. But here it is. It's nothing but Z-Man palmetto bugs. This is California craw. You can see it has like a green back on it, a watermelon back with a black back on it, red flakes mixed in. It's a perfect representation of a little brim. It can represent crawdad, any kind of little forage fish that may be swimming around in the grass there. I think primarily they were probably feeding on brim and things like that. But I was using this on a 1/2 ounce tungsten sinker with just a bobber stop on it, just to keep the bait together, keep everything together so it synced properly, and using a 4/0 owner jungle flipping hook is what I was using on this guy, and simply just going around and flipping it in the thickest patches of milfoil and hydrilla that I could find. When I found this place in practice, I only caught one fish on the entire flat when I found it. I did not think that it would be where I would do well in the tournament, much less win the tournament. And the reason that I didn't really understand the area in the beginning is the water was muddy. In practice, the water was muddy and I couldn't see what I was actually flipping. I thought I was actually just blind flipping, what I call blind flipping, just hoping that you would perhaps flip your bait by a fish. But once the water cleared up during days 2 and 3 of the tournament, I could see the isolated little areas that had thicker grass, and that's what I started to concentrate on. That's when fishing started to get really good. To finish out my setup here, I was using probably a little bit atypical setup for flipping. You know, this cover, even though I said it was the thickest cover that I had there, it wasn't really thick for flipping. It's not matted vegetation. It's not something I really had to horse fish out of. I was using a 7' 2" medium heavy rod. Well, you say, well, that's light for flipping. Well, I like something with a little bit of give when I'm using braid, and that's what I was using, was braid. I had plenty of power to stick those fish and turn them around if I needed to, but using a little bit shorter, a little bit lighter setup, that prevented me from being fatigued throughout the day. I was flipping a lot of grass to get my bites. I had to flip. I spent a lot of time, hours upon hours, not catching fish. So I had to make a lot of presentations, and using a little bit smaller setup, a little lighter setup, it was just easier on my wrists, easier on my arm and shoulders. So it allowed me to be a little bit more efficient and allowed me to be a little bit more accurate. So 7' 2". This is a favorite Phantom rigged series. It's the perfect rod to do just about anything you want to with. Paired with 50-pound test Seaguar braid, and I'm using an Abu Garcia STX 7:3-to-1 gear ratio reel. Now, Abu Garcia has a lot of different gear ratio reels, 801 all the way up to the 10-1-1 gear ratio, the Revo Rocket. And a lot of guys ask me why wasn't I using a really fast reel for flipping. Here's the thing, when you go to the 801, the 10-1-1 gear ratio reels, they're great, I think personally, for flipping open water, because you can bring that fish and catch up with line really quickly. The downside is if a fish does get you buried up, you don't have that torque to actually turn the fish around with it. So I went with just a touch slower, just so I would have some power to turn around a fish if I need to, but a 7:3-to-1 gear ratio is fast enough that I still can pick up the line if need be. But a really simple setup, a really simple way to fish. Quite honestly, it's my favorite way to catch them, is flipping grass. It's high energy, high contact. I had a lot of dead time, a lot of time where I didn't catch fish, but it's fun. When you do get a bite, it's pretty exciting pulling them out of out of that grass, because you never know what's coming out next. So all the equipment that I mentioned here, you can find in the description box of this video. Check it out at sportsmansoutfitters.com.